There's a chance to seal it. It's done. It's Georgie Kelly. Rotherham United's pathway back to the Championship is opening up.
Hello, welcome to New York Talk. This is the Rotherham United podcast, and we're back reviewing football after a very short break, which feels like a long break compared to what we've had in the past. We now go into a run of fixtures, 9 games in 28 days leading up to the World Cup. And start with Huddersfield Town on Saturday morning, lunchtime. Mick is with us to start with. How are you doing, Mick?
I'm all right, mate. Are you?
Yeah, not bad, thank you. Have you enjoyed a few days not thinking about Rotherham United and just football in general?
I've been busy, mate. I've had a busy couple of days off, and I've really enjoyed it. So yeah, it's been good. It's been good.
Very, very good. But now we have to get back to thinking about, teams and.
Oh, yeah. I'm not really bothered about that. Can we talk about? I went to see Roxy Music last night, which is
go on. I'll let you know.
Will mean something, and it was like a once in a lifetime opportunity, seeing as they broke up in the early 90s. So, what a fantastic night that was! Unbelievable live. So, for anybody of my age group, just to let you know that Brian Ferry has still got it, even in his 70s.
So you've still got plenty of years left, and you're doing this, aren't you? There's no excuse for you to stop doing this anytime soon, is there?
Mate, the only similarity between me and Brian Ferry is that we've both got heads.
Fair enough. We have a few people with Paul Brock's with us, Neil Liversidge, Sarah Ogden, Jalen Simpson, David Lawton, Phil Rawlinson with us so far. Danny should be joining us shortly. As with many others, he has a life. So sometimes may turn up late and things like that. So Danny will be with us at some point. So we've got the preview of Huddersfield, the live game on Sky. And then that's it, really. That's really it, isn't it? Just preview one game. Make the most of that while you can, because like I said, we've got a hell of a run in. I mentioned that running, Mick, 9 games in 28 days, which is obviously a lot. Only Coventry have got that run between now and the World Cup. Everybody else has got 8 or 7 games in that period. We're playing Saturday, Tuesday. I think it's Saturday, Tuesday every single week between now and the World Cup. But actually, other teams have less. I don't know why we've sort of forced that. I think it's the Sheffield United game really that's caused it.
Well, we didn't have 4 games cancelled at home like Coventry did we? So I mean, I don't understand. But it must. Well, it has to balance itself out at some stage.
That's
it. But whatever, keep them on the toes, won't it?
Well, yeah, I'll keep him busy, won't it? Definitely keep him busy. Jalen Simpson said on Saturday, glad we've nearly sold out despite it being on telly. Yeah, often not. I think I've heard that Huddersfield are expected to bring around 2,000. They normally bring a fair few, to be fair, don't they, Mick? To be honest,
they do. Yeah, they do. And to be fair, I mean, people know what Sky's commentary is like, so people don't want to watch it, do they? I mean, it's woeful always, particularly for our games, but just in general, really. So, people are much happier going to a game than actually watching it on telly if you can.
If any Sky Sports commentators are listening to preview the game on Saturday, I apologise.
Were you hoping to get some sponsorship from Sky?
No, I was just thinking we've had in the past commentators say, well, I've listened to the New York Talk podcast as a preparation for the game. I just feel like I should apologise to them if they're making the effort to research.
If you're making some effort and you're doing some research, do exactly that. Do some research. Don't just use and spout the script that's given by Sky Sports about Rotherham playing long ball and being a big, physical, tough, hard side. It's just say what you see rather than what you're told to say.
Okay.
It's just a bit of advice from somebody who went to commentator, so probably don't know what he's talking about.
Tell you, you've not been at work for a few days. Very chipper today.
I've been working. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Danny is with us. How's it going, Danny?
Hello, everybody. How are we all?
Nice to see you, mate.
Nice to be here. Sorry I'm a little bit late. I've tried pina coladas for the first time in Sheffield.
And?
They're all right. I much prefer a pint, thank you.
Yeah. I like it. John Morell says, we talked about fixture. John Morell says Birmingham's next home game at 3:00 is the 21st of January. That is insane.
Oh, wow. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So there we go. Shall we have a quick talk about the blackout removal potential? Let's get that get out of the way before we talk about Huddersfield game, because it's something that's covering the news this week. I mean, we've talked about it in this podcast before, actually. Maybe the charity day we did on the podcast that day. There's now talk that EFL are going to potentially commission or request to the FA, that the 3 p.m. blackout is scrapped. And if anybody doesn't know, the 3 p.m. blackout means you're in England, or I think it's the UK actually. You're not allowed to show any live football on telly between, I think it's 3 and 5 or 3 and half 5, something like that. So that's why games on Saturday afternoon. That's why essentially why Sky move games, especially EFL games, so they can televise them when they can't at 3 p.m. The idea is that you get fans into the stadiums. You know, if you give people a chance to people to watch it on telly, they'll probably not go to the game. That's the theory behind it. It helps the pyramid in theory. There's been a lot of opinion. We put a poll up on our Twitter page. It was I think it was 50-something% said keep the blackout. It was very, very close in terms of that. Danny, it's a difficult one because the evidence isn't there to support it, really. We can't say, right, this percent of people don't go to games because it's televised. The data isn't there to back it up. It's just sort of speculation. How do you feel it will go?
I can understand people not wanting to scrap it. Because especially lower league football sort of leans on gate receipts more than than some of the higher up clubs, so I can understand it in that sense. But the AFL's talked about completely restructuring how it streams it, so like every game is streamed through one service or another, or at least they're all available to be streamed. So what does that do with the broadcast money? Does that get divvied up evenly rather than on a game by game basis? There's a lot to explore with it. But for me, it actually comes down to travel, right? Because we had to travel for a 12:30 kickoff in Gillingham because it was on Sky and it was on the final day. But if they, I know this is a bit more of a compacted sense, but if
He's got out. You got out there, Danny. You're back.
Oh no, I'm back. Okay,
you're back.
Mother, stop using your phone. I'm on the internet. Yeah, so anyway, I think mine's more of a selfish sense because I don't want to be waking up at 3:00 in the morning to go to somewhere like Gillingham, for example. But wasn't the blackout brought in to discourage TV broadcasts, and so it was a very very niche market for TV broadcast when that was brought in, because I think it was brought in like the 60s or something like that, just as like the FA Cup final, I think it was being broadcast every year. So yeah, I can understand them wanting to scrap it and give clubs a bit more money with TV rights and let some fans further afield at least see what's in the AFL rather than it just being Premier League and the odd EFL game. But at the same time, for the clubs that sort of look towards gate receipts more, it may impact them a little bit more because like for example, going to Stoke on a Tuesday night, if there was if that was on a Saturday game at 3:00, it's on Sky, we'll just stay at home and watch it on Sky rather than actually travelling to the game. So it could discourage fans from actually travelling away, which I think is why they brought it in the first place. But in the ever-changing world and the super money world of football, I could actually see it going. I really could. I could see it just going and them just saying, right, everyone kicks off at 3:00 and you're all going to be on whatever streaming service, such and such will be on Sky, you'll be on Amazon, you'll be on Apple, and then the rest of you will be on your own club's thing through iFollow, which you can watch anyway through paid subscription or whatever. I can really see that happening. I'd like to see the BBC and ITV pick up a few games as well, them jump in as well. Do I want it to go? Probably not, but I can see it going, in honesty. Maybe not next season, but eventually.
John Morell says the blackout being removed has to happen if anybody outside the parachute payments wants to progress due to the current TV deals. JLN says they could scrap it for the Premier League and Championship, leave lower league as it is. And John Morell with the right points that the money is current EFL TV deals worth around 100 million. Blackout being removed, it means they can get about 200 million. So it's not 50 quid even they were talking about. I mean, this is millions and millions. And what I will say is, one of the arguments for getting rid of the blackout is that a lot of people stream it now anyway. If you're not going to football, you'll find a way to stream the game, which is obviously through an illegal stream. So people are losing out, and people are having to make the effort to find a way of watching it, which is inconvenient on the supporters side, and clubs are losing out and cashing it as well. Well, if you get rid of it, it's a win-win because you allow more access to watching the games, and you're paying your football club rather than paying to stream through somebody's IPTV or whatever.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? And I don't claim to understand all the nuts and bolts of it. I know that there are a few people who do understand it who are against it. Andy Holt, particularly at Accrington's, not a fan of it in its current guise. So without knowing the ins and outs of the finances involved, it's very difficult to have an opinion, because in my head, if it remains the way it is, what's going to happen is that the clubs with the biggest supporter base are going to get richer, and the clubs with a smaller supporter base are either going to get poorer because they're not getting anybody through the gates, or as many through the gates, and they're only got a nominal amount from subscription or from people paying to watch. So there needs to be some sort of, in my head, there needs to be some sort of arrangement where the money is shared, distributed more equally across clubs, not based on supporter size. And I say that obviously as a supporter of a club that averages a sort of 9,000-10,000 a week. So we're on that smaller end anyway. So the benefit that Rotherham United would get, or other clubs, the vast majority of other clubs in the lower two divisions, the benefits that they're going to get financially under the current structure, I don't think sort of suggests that it's a good idea, because I think they will lose out financially. It might not be massively, it might not be a massive financial hit, but nevertheless, it'll be a financial hit, and it will create a bigger imbalance between clubs in the pyramid. So certainly the top four divisions. So I'm struggling with it at the moment. I don't think it's the right idea, unless it's taken away from the likes of Sky, BT, etc., who are only ever going to do, all they're ever going to show is the teams with the bigger supporter base, because it's the bigger customer base for them to get money out of, and everybody else is not even going to get a look in. So it depends on what the arrangement's going to be in terms of the distribution of the money that's generated from it. But if it was in its current guise as it is now, so everything went on iFollow or Sky and everybody else can bid for it, not for me, I'm afraid, no.
I'm all for getting rid of the blackout. I think it's dated. I think everybody should be allowed to watch their football club as long as they're paying for it. You're still going to get this. For example, you're not going to. This doesn't mean every single game is going to kick at 3 o'clock. You're still going to have your prime time Sunday afternoon fixtures, for example. So you're going to get Man City and Man U still playing on Sunday, and what that then allows is fans of Man U and Man City, if they so choose, is to watch a game on Saturday, which could be a game in the Championship. So it actually opens the EFL up to more coverage. Much more coverage if they're all on demand, sort of available at the same time under a Netflix style subscription. There are questions how it affects the rest of the pyramid, and that's my only concern, is how it's going to affect the National League and below. Where's their compensation? Because it may well take away some of their customers or fans or whatever. But again, we don't have the information. There's just not the information out there to back up saying, right, yeah, Hallam are going to lose 15% of their supporter base because games are on 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. I don't know how you get that information either, to be honest with you. I don't know how you do those surveys, but that's something the EFL and the Sky and everything else need to go through. Streaming is the way forward, isn't it? Let's be right about it. You look at the NFL, you can watch every single. You've got the match pass, whatever it is. You can watch every single game. Even cricket nowadays with the county championship, you could watch every single game of Yorkshire this season. Ones that were in Scarborough. So football's sort of lagging behind, and football is famously against change, isn't it? And I don't know why football is famously against change, but it generally is. As a supporter base, we don't like change, do we?
It's definitely the way forward. There's no question about that. There's absolutely no question. It's about the distribution of the cash within it, though, and we know from previous experience that both the FA and EFL will pander to the people with the deepest pockets. They always have done, and I just cannot see how that will ever change. So if Sky come calling and say, right, we'll pay you, I don't know, 200 million to screen 3 o'clock kickoffs of a season, but you can't screen anybody else unless you can't sell it to anybody else. You can't put it on iFollow or whatever. Then your Sunderlands, your bigger clubs will get a massive piece of that pie, and everybody else will get next to nothing. So it's got to be done properly. And I'm sorry, I know I'm cynical, but I can't trust the EFL to do anything properly, because I genuinely don't believe that they've got the best interests at heart of the game at heart, of the supporters at heart. They've got the best interests of the EFL coffers at heart.
Well, I think the idea is that it wouldn't be a straight split where it's 200 million divided by 72, but you would get more. The Championship League would get more than League One, get more than League Two, but you then don't get the on day. So when we played Middlesbrough, which was technically a home game as far as Sky were concerned, we got money for that. There wouldn't be that anymore. You would just essentially get a flat rate because you're always going to play at 3 o'clock and it's always on telly.
But that split should be equal amongst all clubs. Maybe a difference in each division. But nevertheless, it should be equal amongst all clubs, and it won't be, and that's the problem.
Brian Vernon says there's going to be more games watched through TV and less in person. It'll be like going to games during. I couldn't disagree more, Brian. I'm sorry, fans. You're not going to stop me going to games. If I want to go to a game, I personally think most Rotherham fans are like this. You'll get the odd few who are, in age-wise at the high end or low end with kids, and the elder don't fancy a Tuesday night, for example. But that's not going to stop us getting 12,000 against Huddersfield in a local derby and things like that. I can't see the thought process behind that. And I'm not trying to have a dig at anybody, but I don't see that. Danny, from an EFL point of view, could you see it hurting Rotherham's attendances or, Charlton or anything like that?
I can see it hurting away attendances a lot more. Because, look in the Premier League, for example, which is basically the only example we've really got, which is like on TV, like all the time, more or less. Their attendances are still really good. You've got high 80s into the 90s at most stadiums. All right, the ones that are getting 90s are your more tourist clubs, like your Man United and your Liverpools and stuff. But I don't think it'll affect home attendances, because I can honestly see it becoming a badge to wear that, instead of watching it on Sky, I went to that game. Like, for example, when Middlesbrough beat Man United, it were on telly, but imagine the badge of honour you've got, like, I went to that game to watch Middlesbrough beat Man United sort of thing. If, for example, Rotherham were to play Plymouth, that would be very heavily affected. You would go from, I can't remember how many we took, they would take about 400 or so. That game on a Saturday, that'll drop because people just stay at home. Because it's like, I can just watch it on the
But then the flip side is that there's more revenue because more people will watch it, so there's revenue sense. I don't know, but that's a different point.
But I do think I think more local away attendances will stay roughly the same, but it's further afield will get affected. Like, for example, if it was to come in this season, and it was in this season, we wouldn't have many going to Cardiff or Swansea or Bristol or Norwich, for example. But we'd have plenty going to Bramall Lane and what's the other local one? I was going to say Derby, but they're in lower division now, aren't they? Huddersfield, yeah. Like Sheffield, like Bramall Lane and Huddersfield, they'd still get decent attendances. Same for away followings for them to us. It's just further afield, I think it'll affect. But like you say, if the revenue structure is what we think it's going to be, then fair enough, it will even the playing field rather than how many times you are on telly. But you have to be on a minimum number of times. For example, we'll be on the minimum number of times, but Sunderland won't be, for example. But if
it
it levels the
playing, it's flat.
Yeah, like I say, if it levels the playing field, so it's just right, you just get a lump sum and you're always on at 3:00, then yeah, in theory, it levels the playing field. But like Mick says, I have a suspicion it won't completely level the playing field because that's just how these things go, isn't it?
It is, and that's the key thing for me. The only way it can work is every single game is available to watch at any time. Say it's £20 a month through Sky. Every single game should be available to watch for anyone. So I should be able to watch Walsall's game if I wanted to because I'm paying for my subscription fee, and obviously Walsall should get that cost. We should get a fair piece of the cake. If you're going to start picking and choosing, then what's the point of removing the blackout to put one game on at 3:00? It's got to be all or none for me. You either keep the blackout and say none, or you say right, everybody's on, and here's a massive essentially compensation for doing that.
There's a couple of points, Matt. There, one is the one that Mike 61 Miller's just made there, and he's absolutely right. You know, Sheffield United game, for example, £33 for a ticket or £10 to watch it on iFollow. What are you going to do? You know. I know what I'm going to do. I ain't paying £33 to go to Bramble Lane. It's not happening.
But will a side effect? But you're not anyway. Yeah.
Anyway.
But would a side effect of this be right? Well, we've got to make sure fans still come to the stadium.
How are you going to do that?
You lower ticket prices.
Well, yeah, possibly, potentially. The other thing I would suggest is, and maybe you wouldn't immediately see an effect on attendances. But as this becomes more established over a period of 2 or 3 seasons, I think that's when you'll start to see the drop off, when people get used to just sitting in their armchairs watching the football, and it becomes the norm rather than actually getting themselves out on a Saturday afternoon. You know, in January when it's -3, throwing it down with rain, when you would ordinarily go anyway, you would have gone for years, and then you will get eventually a generation of people who've only ever watched it on telly. And so ultimately, in the long term, I think it probably will affect attendances. So that will be something else that clubs would have to work on, because the EFL won't work on it because they'll be getting their pockets lined. So they won't be interested in that. I genuinely don't think they would be.
But they will to an extent, because the Premier League have talked about this in the past. And we're going to change subject in a minute. But for the product to look good, there has to be people in the stadium. We know from COVID, as a product, it looked terrible because there was no atmosphere, there were no fans in the stadium. So you can't sell that. You can't sell empty stadiums. The product you're selling, and the product and the idea that's to sell EFL is the fans, the atmosphere, everything about it. So if you set something up knowing it's going to negatively impact, people aren't going to pay to watch an empty stadium. So they have to have at least half, 3/4 full stadiums for the product to look good. And the Premier League have talked about that in the past. That's one of the reasons they brought in the £30 cap for away prices, was to make sure that fans still come to the stadium. So I get your cynicism, but
we'll see.
But that cynicism means they have to have people in those stadiums. Otherwise, the product's not there, is it?
Yeah. There's no doubt that streaming football matches, streaming sports of all kinds is absolutely the future, but at the expense of Sky's dominance rather than at the expense of people going into grounds is what it should be. But that won't happen because of Sky's dominance. Yeah.
We mentioned IPTV earlier. Do we know anybody that is a football fan that doesn't stream through an IPTV or has not illegally streamed? We just know it. You don't know anybody?
No, I do. It's me.
Oh, yeah, that's what I mean. There's not a single football fan that I know that doesn't already stream. So this is what I'm saying. It already happens anyway. We all know people of the older generation and the younger generation that already do it. So it's already happening.
I'm saying I don't do it. So I'm the one person I know that doesn't do it.
Yeah. All right. But if you didn't go to games,
because I can't
reason,
afford the IPTV dodgy dongle, so that's why.
Some people do it, some people don't. For me, that's not really the point of it. The point of it is, the point of it is when it becomes freely available to everybody, what effect is it going to have? But it's all about the distribution of the money that it generates. That is the key, the crux of it for me. So we'll have to see how this tender process goes that the EFL are claiming to have done. If it's anything like any tender process I've ever been involved with, it'll be a shambles. And I say that again, having been through it, seen what the processes are like, and they have no bearing on what the end product is. It's just nonsense. But anyway, we'll see. Move on.
Just a couple of comments. Mike the Miller says anything that threatens fans going to football can't be right. Matches without fans in stadiums will spell the death knell of the game. Yeah, but John Morrell with an alternative point is football fans are mugs anyway. We still go to games. We still go to games to watch matches. 10 years, everybody's moaned about ticket prices, and we still go, which is another fairly valid point. Chris Poyage also points out that German TV showed 3 League, which is their third tier games, free every Saturday all season, and Saturday night the Bundesliga 2. The German Championship games are free on German TV, and UK is behind a paywall. Their attendance are arguably better than ours in the top 2 tiers.
But their ticket prices are realistic.
Well, exactly. But is that because they do that?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
Paul Brock. Mike doesn't stream. Paul does stream. Neil doesn't stream. I would be surprised if more than 50% of football fans don't stream nowadays. They just do, I think. But anyway, that's plenty of time on that. This will be something we'll talk about in 6 months, a year's time again, I imagine. So let's move on. Huddersfield Town come to New York Stadium. This is the time where I normally give you the stats about our record against them.
Please don't.
They're normally pretty pessimistic, the stats, but these are on another level, I think. I think this may be the worst ongoing record we have against a current club. We have 1 win in our last 25 games against
Jesus.
And this is not a team that we haven't played since 60s. These are all... We beat them in 1992. So all these 26 games are post then. It's a team we play regularly, but for some reason don't beat. And even in the COVID season, Danny, that game in lockdown where Ben Wiles hit the post, I think Crooksy missed a sitter. It's just for some reason a team we don't beat, and that's a shocker of a stat, isn't it?
I'm actually quite offended by that. To be honest. But I think Huddersfield is legit the definition of our bogey team.
Yeah.
At least for the last 30 years they are anyway. Jesus. 30 years since we last beat Huddersfield. That's diabolical.
At home. We beat them
at home. Right,
at home, yeah.
Okay,
we beat them in 2015 at what I think was the John Smiths at the time. We carried on as Connor Salmon. But that's the only win since 1992.
Well, that's made me feel a little bit better. Not a lot, but a little bit. But wow. I don't know what to say about that. Just that it's just there to be changed, isn't it? I mean, what was the one that we did this season? Who was it now that we're not beaten in ages and we've done it this season? Who was it?
Now you're asking. Have we done one this season?
It might not be this season.
We did loads in COVID, didn't we? The way that we did Cambridge, not Cambridge, Middlesbrough, we'd not beat since 60s. Derby, we'd not beat since 60s.
The first double over Chef Wednesday.
First double over Pigs, yeah.
So if we can channel a little bit of that energy and put it into
Birmingham,
right? I knew there was one this season. So if we can channel a little bit of that energy into this game, that'd be great. Really would be great. And even though Huddersfield are our bogey team, the odds are probably ever so slightly in our favour, which sounds really bad because now we're going to lose. We've got table position on our side, which at this point actually means nothing, but just thought I'd tell you. We've lost less games, which is quite good so far. They do actually score more goals per game on average. But we concede less. on average, so that could be a good fight. Like we're averaging out at more or less 1-1, whereas they're at 1.25 to 1.5. So that could even out nicely for us. We've got clean sheets on our side as well. So I could see it being a little snatch and grab 1-goal win for Rotherham. However, you have to factor in the bogey feel of Huddersfield, which could carry them over the line, which is a bit now then. Excuse me. They've got a fair few players out injured, which may play into our favour as well. They've got Hogg and Pearson out until at least the end of this month, and a few other players out. We've got Anjorin, is that how you pronounce it? Anjorin, anyway. Yeah, he's out with a fever, apparently, so he could miss through that. Yeah, very, very exciting. Hopefully we break the Huddersfield bogey. Fingers crossed, anyway.
Yeah, at the last home win, Marty, was October 1992. Was that a sign? October, 30 years.
October 30 years, a year with a 2.
Yeah.
You
Sean Goater with the only goal on that occasion. Gerald Simpson, do we lose or draw? I think it's mostly losses, to be honest with you. Yeah, I'm afraid. John Rell says, we beat Birmingham for the first time in a while. And Reading, we beat the first time in 7 or 8 years, something like that. So a couple of minor ones, but nothing quite like this Huddersfield bogey. You tell me these things don't matter, mate, but it's 25 games that we've got one win. As a player, I always wondered a player, do you look at history? It's not like, we know our record against local rivals. Everybody knows those. This is not really a derby, is it? Always a local derby. Do you think the history matters at all?
No. Well, I don't understand. When you think about it, why would it matter?
I don't know.
If we played them for the last 25 weeks and lost every time, or 30 weeks and lost every time, then yeah, it might be important. But we haven't. We didn't play them last season. We played them the season before and did reasonably well. We may have lost, but we did reasonably well. I mean, did we draw at their place? We 0-0.
We drew 0-0 at their place, and we drew 1-1 at our place. Well, that was, I think, it was the game Angus nailed one at top corner at 90-something minute.
So ultimately, the players within this squad, that's all they'll remember of playing against Huddersfield. True. If they remember playing Huddersfield at all, because it's of no consequence to them, is it? I can't understand. I can't understand why we talk about these stats, obviously, and it's a talking point and everything else. However, but as a player, walking out that tunnel on Saturday afternoon, it will mean absolutely zero. I don't even think it'll enter any of their consciousness, because it has no relevance on Saturday's game. No relevance at all in reality. So yeah, I get it. It's good to talk about it, innit? But it's nonsense. It's nonsense, mate. It's about this Saturday. It's about every Saturday.
Someone else says it shouldn't matter, but football is a funny old game, which means it does. Yeah,
it matters to people like us, John, but people who are pulling us on that red and white shirt or that blue and white shirt on Saturday afternoon, it matters not one jot for them.
Maybe. We've got Rackler says, off his sick bed, new yellow shirt, pint in the Angel, pucker pie. Thinks we'll win 2-1. That's the kind of spirit we like to see. Quick ref watch before we dive into the midweek stuff of the reserves and whatnot. Jeremy Simpson, the referee, he last refereed us the Wigan game last season, the 1-1 draw. A couple of yellows to Rotherham on that day. My memory of this game, I don't know if you two guys will think the same. I remember thinking before the game, oh God, we've got a championship referee. And when the game went on, I remember thinking, oh God, here we go. It's typical. It's a championship referee and he's rubbish. I don't know if you two remember the game. I definitely do remember having that thought. I don't know if it resonates with either of you two on that one.
Not with me. I remember the name. I remember when I saw it was him that was refereeing, I thought, oh no, we've had some bad experiences with him. But I having gone through the games that he's reffed, I don't really remember any of them. So maybe I just sort of maybe that's just my instant reaction about every referee that we have, and then I start to think about it. So I don't have any recollection of anything particularly poor from him, but I'm sure we'll find out on Saturday, won't we?
Yeah. I just remember last season, every time we had a championship referee, I remember us whinging about it.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, we're beginning to get used to it a little bit more now, aren't we? The inconsistencies of it all. And but I'm sure we'll have a moan on Sunday if he has a bad game.
Correct.
Make no mistake.
We absolutely will. Matt Miller says, stats mean more to the likes of journos rather than footballers. Stats make good stories, but not necessarily a good game. We all love a good story, though.
Yeah, I'd second that.
A good game.
Yeah.
Neil Taylor has a question. Good evening, lads. Sadly, he won't be able to get to the game on Saturday thanks to Sky moving the fixtures. Would he be able to get in the second half? Does anybody have an answer for Neil? I'll open that up to you two. If you can only get there for the second half, do you think Neil would be able to get in?
He used to be able to at Millmore.
Is that because they open gates at half time?
No. Well, it depends how many we were losing by, but you used to be able to. You used to go to Stewart's entrance, and they'd let you in. So obviously with your ticket. So I would imagine you probably can still get in, whether all the turnstiles will be open. But there's obviously stewards outside, and I'm sure you can get in. You've got a ticket.
They open the exit doors for smokers at half time. Well, they don't know stand anyway. So I'm sure if you present your ticket to a steward, they can't exactly turn you away, can they? Because you've got a valid ticket.
Or spark the flag up and walk back in.
Yeah.
But don't blame us if you can't get in, Neil. It's not
Yeah.
Don't keep smoking just to get in.
Yeah. Quick minor point. It's been well publicised, but the final day of the season game could very well be moved. The King's coronation has been scheduled for the 6th of May, which is the same day as the final day of the season. At the minute, the final day is scheduled for 3 p.m. on a Saturday anyway, which obviously the final day of the championship is not going to be that anyway. So there was always probably going to be some movement. I suspect it'll be more guaranteed that we'll probably play on the Sunday, would be my guess. There's ages to work that out, 7 months yet to work that out. So knowing the EFL, we'll not know by March. But
I have a motor pick, to be fair. Why can't you do it on the Monday? Because then we get a bank holiday.
That's why.
The King claims to be a Burnley fan, yet he hasn't helped football out. That could be the day Burnley get promoted.
He's a Burnley fan. How is Charles a Burnley fan?
Yeah,
I get
King Charles is a Burnley fan, apparently.
I get William liking Villa because they're a big club and everything like that. But Burnley?
Yeah, I was like, really? But yeah, apparently the King is a Burnley fan. Make of that what you will, Burnley fans. You can have the Royal Burnley if you want or whatever. But that could be the day Burnley get promoted back to the Premier League and he wants to get coronated. No, I'd be at home with my feet up in a can watching Burnley. It's like, look, coronation's on Monday. Be right. Watch Burnley go up, then we can have a party on the Monday for a bank holiday. But anyway.
You're right, Burnley. What the?
That's proper pub quiz knowledge, that.
That's mad.
Who does the current king of the United Kingdom and its surrounding territories support? Burnley.
No offense to Burnley, but it's like supporting Rotherham. It doesn't make any sense.
Hey, don't knock it. You never know. Prince George might go, quite fancy Rotherham. You never know.
Yeah. I mean, we'll take it, but very odd. I don't know how Burnley are not marketing the hell out of that, to be honest with you. Like, I would be.
Royal Burnley, telling you.
So moving backwards slightly, the reserve game happened on Tuesday, the one that has been sort of not built up, but talked about a little bit. Plenty of minutes in to most players, Danny, except Jamie Lindsay, who got a lovely little birthday present of a big fat bust lip, which is a shame he didn't get the minutes in the tank. But if I wanted one of our players to get kicked in the face and hurt, I'd want it to be Jamie Lindsay because he'll stick his head back in next time. He's not scared. It won't phase him, will it?
I'll tell him you've said that. But yeah, I have got a picture of it. The picture in the advertiser, and it's a proper stud has gone straight through his lip, sort of job. On his birthday as well, the poor lad. But from what Matt Taylor's been telling the advertiser, he's ready to go Saturday. Like he's had it stitched up. He might have like a face guard or something on to stop the stitches coming out. But yeah, he's reporting for duty, ready to go on Saturday. So there's no injury concern there whatsoever. I will admit, watching the highlights of the game, it's like Jamie Lindsay had to go off in like whatever minute it was, and it's like, oh no, don't tell me he's done his leg. But no, thankfully, he's just smashed his face, which is good news for us because he's still fighting fit for Saturday. You never know. Matt Taylor might go. He's an hard case, and we'll start him in midfield because it's a derby. But yeah, glad to hear he's all right, and I hope he actually had a good birthday in A&E. I hope they brought him
Won't any cake, will he?
No, it just comes straight back out.
Yeah. It's just Jamie Lindsay, isn't it? He's just hard, Scottish hard man, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. If I'm Matt Taylor, I'm dead impressed that if I've done that to my face, I'm trying to find sympathy for at least until stitches come out. Jamie Lindsay wants to go put his head back where he just put it. It's the type of player we want playing for this football club. Obviously, we can't speak highly for Jamie Lindsay, can we? I suppose, Nick. We love him, and we want to see him on pitch more as well. I want to see him get more minutes now.
Yeah, absolutely. Love him to bits. He's just a grafter, and he seems such a lovely lad as well. And heart of gold and heart of a lion as well. You know what I mean? He's just brilliant, top man, and I'm sure he'll be raring to go Saturday, no matter what his face looks like.
Peter Kyoso got a much needed 45 minutes. Matt Taylor has subsequently said he is available for selection. I'd be surprised if he starts. Bear in mind, he's still getting the minutes in, but hopefully we can see Kyoso on the bench and we'll see him for a little bit of the game, because it gives us a chance to start managing Norton Cuffy, Danny, doesn't it? And this is a thing. As much as Norton Cuffy's been amazing, you need to manage his minutes. As a young kid, you need to make sure you don't overdo it.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want him blowing his knee or anything like that for him running too much. So yeah, I think Kyoso is coming back in at sort of the right time, because it's like the big run in up until the start of the World Cup. So yeah, like I say, it gives us a chance to condition Cuffy a little bit more, and then it gives us a chance to like recondition Kyoso as well. I think it will be a case of Cuffy starting and Kyoso playing the odd part later on just to even it out a little bit. I think he'll only come on Saturday if we're winning, I think. But we will see him in future games. I think that little hectic week where it's who is it now? It's Hull, Coventry, Cardiff, Sheffield United and Luton. That will be a big strain, so I can see Kyoso play more of a part around then. But for now, probably odd minute when we're winning, or if Cuffy goes down injured potentially. But yeah, I'm actually really happy to see him back. We saw a very brief stint of him in pre-season at the start of this season, and he looked a real threat, especially in the air, which is odd for a wing back. But from what I remember, he had a good crossing in from the right-hand side, and from corners, he was very dangerous in the air. So yeah, hopefully he plays an important part, and I think he could bag a few as well.
Yeah, Matt Taylor's tried to sign him a few times as well, which shows that Matt Taylor's obviously a fan of him, which means he's very likely to get the minutes. Georgie Kelly scored, Mick. The club got it mixed up with the Dolphins somehow. But it shows not only we know what Georgie Kelly's going to do when he's on a football pitch, we also know that he found the back at there. So not only does Matt Taylor know how he plays, he knows what he can do in terms of putting the ball in the back of the net and all.
Yeah, absolutely. And that can only be a good thing, can't it? You know, we need to see a bit more of Georgie Kelly on the pitch. It's important to us because he offers something different to anybody else that's up there. And out of everybody, he seems to be the one who knows where the goal is more than anybody else. He really has got an eye for that. So fingers crossed he gets some. I can't see him starting. I really can't. But you never know. It would be nice if he did. I'd like to see him and Chio up front. They seem to have got when they have played together, a bit of an understanding. You know. So yeah, it's good to see him making a name for himself in front of the manager, isn't it? So just going back to that Norton Cuffy Kyoso discussion there, I think that there is a strong argument to limit the amount of time that Norton Cuffy is playing for me, because of his age, because of the fact that at the moment his end product is just not there at all. So that is something that needs to be worked on, and I think his game time should be limited as a result of that, because we know that a fully fit Peter Kioso's end product is significantly better at the moment. I'm not saying obviously he won't develop into that player, but and where we are at the moment in terms of the league and the results that we've had, end product is what we're after. It's really, really important to us at the moment. So I suspect, hopefully, if Kioso's fit enough, we might see a bit more of him than you've suggested there. I don't know.
Potentially. Hopefully so. Basically, everybody else got minutes. I can't. If they've not been playing for the first team, they basically it was an extremely strong, one of the strongest reserve teams I can remember ever. To be honest with you, the only youngster was Mackenzie Warren. That's only because he's not out on loan. McGuckin and Duros are still out on loan. That's obviously why they weren't involved. If one was, I think he picked up an injury at Gainsborough, so that's why he's not out on loan still. I suspect he'll go back out on loan at some point. Let's move on then, Danny. Well, how are we going to set up? Bearing in mind that the reserves game is obviously going to have some impact. The question in defence: Richard Wood has had a week's rest, so Richard Wood is going to be available unless he picks up an injury on Friday. So it's unlikely knowing Richard Wood. Is he first name back in team sheet?
I think there are a few that are potentially first name back or even changing the team sheet. Probably Woody gives us a little bit more of an experienced head in the middle. Probably Humphreys on his left-hand side. I think.
Did he play in reserves? I'll check.
Yeah, please check. Probably Humphreys on the left-hand side. I think because of few niggly bits, shall we say, in the Blackburn game, I would take Grant Hall out and possibly bring Wes Harding in on that right-hand side of the back three, just to experiment with it, really, because we all have to remember Matt Taylor still is in experimentation, finding which squad works best with the way he wants to play his football. And I think Harding is a strong candidate. I wouldn't have Peltier in there. I think you need the experienced head in the middle. The lad who bounces off experienced heads on the left, but can also drop back in if there is a defensive mistake from Woody or Wes. But then you've also got the pace of Wes to try and bring it out from the back a little bit more as well. Whether that's playing the ball into the middle, into midfield, or back to Woody, or playing it down the wing for Cuffy to chase. I could see that working out. Phil Oxley raises a good point. McCart does seem to have dropped out. It could be the answer on the left-hand side because he is a left-footed player.
Is he the only one we've got? Well, Wood is left-footed, isn't he?
Yeah, but I think McCart is the only left-footed distribution player we've got per se. And I think when we start getting a bit more comfortable and the running really does start after the World Cup, that's when we'll start seeing McCart more. As like Humphrey needs resting a bit more, and we need more distributing out from the back, etc., etc. I think that's when we'll see McCart coming out. And I'm not going to hog the microphone and go for the rest of my team because I want Mick to tell me about the midfield.
Humphreys did play midweek. I checked how many minutes, but he did certainly start the game. So did McCart and Odoffin as well. Any disagreements with that back three? First of all, Mick.
No, that will be the back three for me. I think Humphreys has got to be back in this squad sooner rather than later. For me, I think he's really important to that back three. So I like the way Danny referred diplomatically to Grant Hall's little. How did you describe it now? What did you say?
Little niggly bits.
Little niggly bits. Yeah, I mean, 3 goals are quite big niggly bits, aren't they? Really, to be fair, but
I'll be a politician, me. I'm telling you.
Yeah. No, that's the back three for me, definitely, without question.
Yeah, midfield 3. Let's go for the midfield 3 because I assume wing backs. I think we're probably both all in agreement. For now, it's going to be Norton, Cuffy, and Bramall, probably. Bear in mind the fitness of everybody else.
For me, yeah. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't do that with the pace that they've got.
Midfield 3 was last time obviously Barlas and Wiles Rathbone. They all individually had okay games against Blackburn, which makes it difficult to say, right, he needs to come out because he was rubbish or whatever. But there does need to be it feels like there needs to be a change in midfield. I don't we need Jimmy Lindsay back. He has been last season in Championship. He was our most consistent performer, above Wilesy and above Barlasser as consistent. Get Jimmy Lindsay back in.
I think it depends who you're going to play up front as to what you're going to do in that middle. Because if you're going to keep going long, you might as well not bother with any of the three of them in there. Just put three completely different players in there. Because if you're going to play the ball on the floor, which is what we understand this manager is his preferred kind of style, then I wouldn't swap it out at all. Yeah, I'd like to see Jamie Lindsay in. I would, but the only person he's going to come in for me is Ollie Rathbone, because they are very similar players. I don't think he's got the vision and ability that Ben Wiles has got, and he can't do the job as well as Dan Barlasser can do it. Nobody can do it as well as Dan Barlasser can do it in our squad, certainly. There's very few in this division that can when he's on his game. So it depends what you're going to do up front as to what you're going to do in midfield for me. If you're going to start Georgie Kelly and Chio up there, then that middle three stays the same for me.
Okay.
I think you bring Lindsay into it when you need a player who's going to be in the trenches. You know, one who's going to fight for the ball in midfield and try and get it off people. So I would like to see Lindsay be introduced later in the game, but earlier than he is being introduced.
Yeah.
Rather than seeing him like 80 plus minutes, I want to see him around 70, 75 minutes and give them at least a shot at trying to dig in the trenches a little bit, whether it's to maintain damage control or to try and get us a goal for a winner or an equaliser or whatever. That's where I want to see Jamie Lindsay, because as he's shown, he's in the trenches as soon as he's off and over the touchline. So to have someone like that to bring on later in a game would really benefit us, especially when we're scrapping for points later on in the season. So yeah, I want to see Jamie Lindsay used in that role. Probably interchangeable with Ollie Rathbone, like you say, but when Ollie Rathbone's run him send ragged, chasing after the ball, and we need an in the trenches midfielder, that's when you switch it with Lindsay.
Yeah. Well, what Matt Taylor said, we want blood and thunder on Saturday. Does that mean you potentially could see Ollie Rathbone and Jamie Lindsay? That would be blood and thunder and a bit extra.
Yeah.
So, don't know. Sean Green does mention Ollie Rathbone has 4 yellow cards. So at some point soon, we are going to need Jamie Lindsay to step in, because that's 1 yellow card away from a match ban, as it has to be about to put in the comments.
Which you'll probably get on Saturday anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. I don't think there's any doubt about that, really, to be fair. So
no, not really. Jalen Simpson says, do we think Georgie will get his chance, or do you think he's not Matt Taylor's sort of player? Big question, that, Danny, isn't it, really? I don't know. He played Tom Eaves, and I suppose he's similar to Tom Eaves in terms of physicality. What do you think?
I think with Georgie is definitely more of a blood and thunder sort of player. I think, again, it's another player I want to see introduced earlier. Give him the chance to play the game and not just give him 6-ish minutes run out. Because we've seen against Blackpool, if you play Georgie in a bit earlier, then it will probably grab a goal for you. It might not be immediately, but he grinds it out and gets it. We've seen it against Blackpool. Matt Taylor's seen it against Huddersfield B team now. So that could be an option, or even start him, get the blood and thunder in early on. And then, again, when you're in the trenches a little bit, that's when you bring, your Connor Washington into it, who chases down the ball and puts their defence and keeper under pressure. I'm trying to get into the mindset of Matt Taylor, but he's been here 10 days. We
don't know yet, do we?
Yeah, exactly. It's hard. But I think if he does want to go for blood and thunder, I would start Kelly and Chio, because you've got that physical presence in Kelly who'll just go after anything. He'll go after the ball if it's got into stand. That's how far Georgie pursues the ball. But then you've got Chio, hopefully, pressing the ball a bit more, putting them under pressure. And then when he's put them under that pressure and he forces an error, that's when Kelly nips in and either gets the ball off him and has a go at goal, or just holds the ball up a little bit until the reinforcements arrive. Because I could see that partnership working that way. But if you want blood and sand, I wouldn't go for Eaves. Eaves is your target man sort of player. He did very well against Blackburn. To give him his credit, he did very well. but he's your target man sort of player. If you want blood and thunder, you go for quick one and bulldozer, don't you?
Yeah, I agree. John Simpson says, "Hope you're right. We'll love to see Kelly." John Morell asks if there's a cut-off for the yellow cards. Yes, if Oliver Rathbone can get to the 19th game without a fifth card, he will not get a ban. The problem is we're on 13 games. Ollie Rathbone's not going to go 6 games without a ban. He's got 4 in 13. Yeah. So, yeah, Ollie Rathbone's going to get a ban. Let's just see when that happens. I couldn't be more certain of anything this season than Ollie Rathbone getting a 1-game ban because of 5 yellow cards. Mick, you talked about midfield affecting your midfield selection being affected by the strikers. What are you doing as a striker? Do you want to see Wash and Chio back? Do you want to see Kelly giving us a chance? Do you think we'll just see Eves back in there with Chio? Do you think it's Chio plus 1?
Yeah, I do, and I suspect it'd be Chio plus Eves, but I'd like it to be Chio plus Kelly for me. That's what I'd like to see, and we may well see that. I don't know, but for me, it's a combination that he's not tried in the first team game yet. It's the only combination he hasn't tried really for the strikers that we've got. So for me, yeah, well, he's not, but the only one that's Chio's not partnered as a start. So for me, I'd have Kelly, I'd have Georgie Kelly up there from the start, and then it gives you that option to bring on Conor Washington or Eves, depending on how the game's going. So yeah, Georgie Kelly, get him on there, mate. Just let's see let him show what he can do, because we know he can do it.
There's always option, as we mentioned, of the 2 advanced 10s rather than 2 strikers, which has been muted. It's been mentioned in the reserve game we played as Georgie Kelly with Scott High in behind. Certainly Scott High in behind, plus maybe another one. So that's something we've mentioned on the podcast before, as well as something I think Matt Taylor's mentioned it. I think maybe wrong on that. I'm pretty sure he has.
So would that formation be a 3-4-2-1 then?
Yes, essentially, yeah. Yeah. So you have your 3 at back, your 2 wing backs as normal, your 2 sort of sitters, which last season was Barlas and Rathbone, then Wilesy and probably Chio with Kelly or Eves. You can still have Chio in that system as either you probably won't have him as the point, would you? You'd need probably a bit of physicality up top, which Chio doesn't give you. And Chio was very, very good as that deeper role at the end of last season, weren't he? Got the assist against Gillingham, caused Sunderland no end of problems. See how it goes. We may need to change things up. It's an option, isn't it? And it's good to have that option. Wilesy and Rathbone can do that job, can't they? Wilesy and Chio can do that job, can't they? So
he's got bags of options and he's got bags of talent in that team. So it's just getting a tune out of them now. They've dropped off for 3 games as a result of the manager leaving. It's going to happen. It's going to happen, particularly bearing in mind the circumstances of him leaving and how long he's been here. So, there's disruption. It's now hopefully the new manager will get them playing back as a unit again, and we'll be back to where we were at the beginning of the season. I'm sure we will be.
Yeah, and particularly most importantly, is it a full week with him? That may be the most important factor. I'm hoping it is anyway. Yeah, we're coming against. Have any of you 2 listened to Mark Fotherington speak yet?
Yeah.
I got grief on this podcast by saying I couldn't really understand what he was saying. I couldn't work out where he was from. It turned out he was Scottish. How many different accents did he have in that little interview he did against on telly the other day?
There were a bit of South African in there at one point.
Yeah, I got Scottish, South African, German, and someone else that I couldn't
like an
play.
Italian or Spanish tinge to it and all.
Yeah, what at Mediterranean. Yeah.
Yes, wow. Talk about all things.
It's certainly a collection, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not. It's a convention of accents. That's what it is.
Yeah, he's an interesting character. He's never been a manager before. Huddersfield have done this, haven't they? Wagner, I think, was similar. Backroom staff came forward, did very well. Carlos Cobran, back up to Bielsa, came forward, did an amazing job. Obviously, they'll be hoping that he does the same type of thing, but he is still very inexperienced as the main man. So hopefully we can sort of take advantage of that. And I don't think he's coached or managed in England for a very long time. He's been in Germany for a while. So hopefully he's forgot what a derby's like, and we can make it a proper Yorkshire derby. And like Matt Taylor says, blood and thunder it up, because that's what we like. Predictions. I will go first, and I will go positive, which I haven't done for a few games actually. No, I've predicted us to lose last 3 games. I'm going to go positive. I'm going to say 1-0 to the Millers this time.
Feeling all right,
Matt. Michael, what do you reckon?
I'm going 2-0. I think Victor will have a clean sheet. Back to clean sheet, Victor. And I think we'll be 2-0. 2-0 Millers.
Like it. Danny?
First goal is crucial for me, because if you notice, every time we've conceded first, we've lost.
Yes, we have for a while. It feels like a while that's happened at all.
So if we score first, we'll win, I think. So I'm going to say 1-0 prediction. Yeah, for me, we'll win 1-0. But if we concede first, we're in trouble.
Nah.
I'll go positive. 1-0 for us. I'll go positive.
I like it. Kim Haywood says 1-0, and Gerald says Jalen Simpson. John Morell says he thinks it'll be 1-1. That depends if we can keep sober Thomas quiet. Brian Vernon says 3-1 to the Millers. Sean Green 2-0. Dominic Carwood says 2-0 as well. Positivity. We like to see this positivity back for the first time in a few weeks from us as well. Tobias also says, Tobias Janssen says 2-0, and Theobald still loves Mick.
Hey.
Yeah.
Cheers. What can I say? I don't blame him.
The happy clappers love him.
Neil Taylor says 0-0 up to half time, and then when Neil gets there, we will win 2-0.
Yeah.
I hope for Neil's sake we don't win 4-0 and all 4 goals are in the first half, and he turns up and sees nothing. For us, I'd love that, but Graham Linda says 1-1. David Lawton is Mr. Pessimism. He says 1-1. Reg says 2-1 for the Millers as well.
Just whilst we're on the topic of predictions, have you guys heard about our potential lucky charm that's coming down from Scotland?
I've read about this. The I can't remember. We should. Have you got his name?
Yes, I do. A Mr. Ryan Munro from a town called Buckie, which is between Aberdeen and Inverness. A great name for a town, Buckie.
You know the football team's name?
It's Buckie Thistle, isn't it?
Buckie Thistle, which is a great name.
That's very good. It needs to be twinned with a town called Barnes, because then you've got Buckie Barnes. Sorry, I'm being a nerd again. Sorry. But yeah, he's a Millers fan who was inspired to support the Millers by the Chuckle Brothers, who he grew up watching on the telly, and it's his first Rotherham game against Huddersfield. He's making the 400-mile trip, staying overnight. Yeah, like we say, he's a Buckie Thistle fan. I really hope we win, because that's going to be some trip home for him if we get absolutely battered, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Oh, I hope we do win. But the problem is, I don't know if you listen to this podcast, you probably don't. If you come to the game and we win, that means you've got to come every week.
Yeah.
You've got to understand how the superstitions work.
And the current rail fares, that's not healthy.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, Ryan Munro, welcome to the Millers family. We're happy to have you.
Say hello if you see anybody. If you see any of us. Adrian Chadwick says we don't know if Danny Ward's going to be playing up front for Huddersfield. I think so. We also got Jordan Rhodes as well. There will be the scouting report will be up on the website, newyorktalk.co.uk on Friday. That's been helped by the He Takes the Chance and Scores podcast, which I think it's called, from Huddersfield. It'll all be on the website, so don't worry about that. Jalen Simpson says it's her son's birthday this weekend, and we've not lost a game in the boys' birthday matches. Drawn and won, but not lost.
Ooh,
I'll take that. Take every little bit of positivity.
That's sorted it.
It has. Mick, do you want to give a shout out to Ben? Ben played this week for the NFL. I'm not sure if anybody watched it. He did very, very well. They did lose, but he did very, very well. Do you want to give Ben a shout out?
Yeah. They played IMG Academy from Florida.
Don't rant about the ref, because we don't know what you're going to rant about. We don't understand the rules. So don't rant about the ref.
Oh mate, yeah.
I'm glad I didn't go. I'd be calling offside when they're in it.
Well, there can be offside. Yeah, I did have a chat with some Americans who were laughing at my rant at the referee. They lost 26-14, and they were very, very unlucky. to concede the last touchdown. It was a bad call from referee that turned over possession, which caused my rant in the stand. And it turns out, even though I don't know the rules, that I was right to be ranting. So, but yeah, no, they did really well. They did really well. They're very, very strong side. They played an American team who've had a full pre-season and 7 games to get ready for this, and the academy haven't played. So to get that sort of result was interesting. So if you want to just have a quick look, the game is up on YouTube. If you want to watch the first play, you will see Ben being swung round by his helmet, which was quite amusing.
He almost got smashed by somebody out of bounds as well, didn't he? Which was
he did that on purpose. Yeah, he drew the foul on that one. But on the first play, he literally get hold of his face mask and swung him around. He was not a happy bunny, I'll tell you that right now.
He breaks up for half term soon, so I think we might even be able to see Ben on the podcast a bit more over the next couple of weeks. Maybe. Is that
Possibly.
right?
He's off to Munich, aren't they? They play Scotland on Sunday, then they're off to Paris, Munich, and then they play in Paris before Christmas. So possibly not. It's proper globetrotter, isn't it, lad?
We're gonna go to Luton.
Yeah.
I was just about to say, Mick, is it the Globetrotters basketball?
Yeah.
See, I know my Yankee sports.
There we go. We've blabbed on for a little bit longer than normal. Any other business we need to cover?
Yep. We get the pay.
Cool. Perfect.
Contract offers. Matt Taylor's first job as new Rotherham boss is sorting out the contracts. That's Chio, Dan Barcer and Ben Wiles. Probably going to have a look in at the other players, which is Victor, Wes and Fergie. Which also adds up because I was sent a picture by our lass yesterday today, of both Tony Stewart and Richard Stewart's Lambos at New York Stadium. So something is afoot with the contracts.
Not parked in the parking spaces either, just
no, they would just go straight in outside the West Stand.
I own the club. I'm not using the parking spaces.
but something is afoot with contracts. Hopefully it's positive discussions and we keep hold of them.
Hopefully they've had WeBuyAnyCar.com in and flogging every Lambo to pay for contract.
But basically, Chio, if I give you what my Lambo's worth as a yearly contract, are you going to say yes?
Yeah, it's a bit of a test, isn't it, to see if we can keep these guys. If we can keep even one of them and cash in on the other two, then that's still a step forward for me. It's a test between now and Christmas, between now and January. If they don't sign, I think all 3 will go in January.
Listen, if all 3 do go in January, it's still long term positive for the club because we are bringing players in, selling them on for more.
If you use the money
more. But it's a long term thing that now. So let's not go down that route because otherwise I'm going to get slaughtered.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. We'll finish there. We've done the predictions, we've done everything else. Check out newyorktalk.co.uk if you want to find out about a bit more Huddersfield stuff, as that will be on there for you to read in sometime in tomorrow morning, maybe tomorrow afternoon. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Slowly, gradually moving on up in terms of subscribers. Danny's Pie reviews are all there if you want to check those out as well. Instant reaction we will doing Saturday. So if anybody wants to come on the instant reaction, feel free to get in touch. And we'll arrange for you to come on if you fancy 10 minutes talking to us straight after the game. I'm sure you can keep your emotion check better than Mick can, and Mick on it. So, do let us know if you fancy it.
Challenge, is it that?
Do let us know if you fancy it, and if you don't want to, if you just want to wait, that'll be out with early kickoff in it. So that'll be out sometime on Saturday to have a quick rant about whatever goes off. I will be back on Sunday evening, live on YouTube on Monday morning for the audio podcast, as per usual, as we go for another Sky game next week. I'll not tell Mick who the referees till next week. Mick, it's been a pleasure. Mick, it's been a pleasure. I'll wait for the next episode to upset you.
Thanks for that.
No problem. Danny, always a pleasure to see you, mate.
Yep, always a pleasure. I think the pina coladas have worn off.
I'm going to be here.
I have bought 18 Carlin in, to be fair, so that is my next job after we've signed off.
Right, thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Bye.
Ravel, ambitious, but brilliant. Mule with it. Wood's got round the back, and Richie Wood has done it again. The magic man has come up with another trick. Well, here's a chance to seal it. It's done. It's Georgie Kelly.